You know what? One thing that people never really tell us is how to network. I mean, we hear from everyone that networking effectively is so valuable, but they don't ever really tell us exactly how to do it. So, if you've always been wondering how to network successfully and you want some actionable tips, well, stick around. This video is for you. My name is Lynette Renee Doby, an Amazon best-selling ghostwriter, an entrepreneur, writer, consultant, and coach, and I am here to share with you my best networking tips and tricks that I've used along the way. So, if this is interesting to you, go ahead and click like for this video and subscribe to this channel where I talk about the things that I'm most passionate about, which are words, writing, entrepreneurship, because I truly believe it is the pathway to freedom and substantial financial windfall if done correctly, and wellness. So if any of those items seems like it's interesting to you, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I'll go ahead and give you a second to do that now. All right, wonderful. Thanks so much for that. So let's get right into it. Networking 101. It is vitally important that you understand how to network, whether you are an entrepreneur, founder, business owner, high-level professional, executive, business person, salesperson. Networking will definitely help you get to the clients and the opportunities that will help your business thrive. Okay, so let's start with in-person networking. So when I talk about that, I mean actually going to an event, whether it's someone who's hosting it individually or a group organization is hosting it, whichever it is, you want to make sure that you're intentional when selecting these events and that they align with what you want to do. I've said this in other videos, I'm all about intentions. And I find like once you put an intention with something, it's that personal guarantee to make sure that everything will align because you've intended it to be so. So when you're looking at these in-person events, notice a couple of different things. Who's hosting it, why they're hosting it, the picture or snapshot of who the attendees are going to be. And number 3, to determine if you can get something from being at that event, meaning will it be beneficial to you? When it comes to finding in-person events, I find that I like to look on either Eventbrite or LinkedIn. You can also check out Alignable and other platforms like that, but wherever your client lives or whoever it is that you want to network with, that's where you will definitely look for events to see where they will be. Next, be very clear about the host and their intention for hosting this event. The reason why I say that is the area that I live in, what I'm noticing is that a lot of these networking events are really just happy hours, especially in this region because you technically can't have happy hours at restaurants around here. So people create them under the guise of networking, which is nothing wrong with that. But if that's not your intention, that's not the event for you. So you definitely want to make sure that you're reading the liner notes and the description of the event and seeing what the host or how the hosts are describing the actual event. Because there's nothing worse when you go in, you dress to the nine, you got your suit on and everything, and everybody's like with a drink like, hey, which again is nothing wrong with that, but you are trying to make your business move forward. You're not trying to figure out what the latest IPA is or whatever drink everyone's drinking. So make sure that you read in between the lines of the copy or the description of the event before you register and commit your time to it. Next, be prepared to come off some money. And when I say that, I mean that sometimes some of the best networking events do have an entry fee. And that's because when people put their money where their action is, they're really serious. So if it has a cover of 25, you're probably going to find some quality leads because they put in their money just like you are. And so they're really wanting to make some serious connections. So don't be afraid to spend that money, okay? It'll be worth it. All right, so let's fast forward. Let's say that you found the event that you want to go to, you're excited and you're ready to go. Next, before that event comes, maybe 24 to 48 hours before, I want you to be intentional and come up with some entry statements or questions, and also likewise, some statements that you'd use to exit a conversation. So you can share your elevator pitch, but why not do it in a very unique way? Like Liz J. Simpson says, she says, instead of saying what you do and for who you do it for, just hit them with an interesting fact about what your solution will do for your clients. Like for me, for instance, I can say, when asked what I do, Did you know that 99% of people do not finish their book? I help my clients make it to the 1%. And then the person will be like, oh, okay. Now, after you've said your statement, allow them to share with you what they do. And if they don't do it automatically, then definitely ask. Now, I want you to be conscientious of when you said what you do or your statement. Are they like, oh, nice? The first one has a little bit of intrigue. The second one is like they're just trying to be polite. I want you to keep that in mind because we'll circle back to it. So after they've told you what it is that they do, you may want to say, you know what? May I have your contact information because I think I can connect you with someone in my network who would be aligned with what you do. So do not do this unless you really do have somebody. Don't do this just to get their information. But just by opening that entryway of exchange, they're like, oh, okay. And then after they say, well, yeah, you can have my contact information. They present you with their card. Then I want you to circle back to their reaction and say something very polite like this. I noticed when I told you what I do, or I shared with you the value that I add to my clientele, you didn't seem too interested. So maybe it's not for you, but do you happen to know someone in your network that you can introduce me to who's looking for X, Y, and Z? So that way you've set up a mutual exchange. And so it's not just a one-way street. Both of you are kind of pouring into each other, and that is effective networking. Next, when you're working these rooms, I want you to involve yourself with only quality connections. You can tell almost instantly whether or not someone is wanting to engage with you for business, or it could be for something else. And when you pick that up, politely excuse yourself from the conversation by simply saying, it was a pleasure talking with you, but I'm going to go ahead and work the room. So that way you can go and meet your quality people, because you don't want to be sitting up in an event on the wall with someone who just really wants to talk to you for reasons other than something that will benefit your business. So you use your common sense and let it guide you to tell you where you need to be and with whom you need to be. And don't be afraid to politely exit the conversation. So remember, OQP, as Les Brown would say, only quality people. Those are the individuals that you were there at that event to meet. Okay, now let's talk. Even though the event is over, your work isn't done. Within 24 hours, if you've gotten someone's contact information, you may want to go ahead and send them a message and say, you know what? It was so nice meeting you at the event. It was a pleasure to speak to X, Y, and Z with you, and I look forward to staying in connection with you. And if I can help in any way, please let me know. It takes 2 minutes for you to share with that person that you met, and you will stay on their radar because this happens rarely. And so they'll be like, oh, I remember that person, that event. So you want to be that person who stays top of mind. Even if they never buy a service from you ever, you still are missing an opportunity to establish a connection with someone cool, and maybe you can help them. It's not always about you. It's a reciprocal sort of thing. Now let's talk about digital networking. Now, I spend a lot of my time, most of my time on LinkedIn. So that's from the scope that I'll be talking about. So whenever you hear me talk about connection requests, I'm referring to LinkedIn. So when it comes to digital networking, you want to be just as intentional as you are with in-person communication and networking. So what I've noticed recently on LinkedIn, and maybe you felt the same thing or you've seen the same thing, is that people are just connecting just for the sake of connecting. I mean, you get a connection, you get a connection, you get a connection. No. We want to be intentional. And so the way that you can ensure that you're intentional is whenever you connect with someone, if you have the option to, send them a little note and say, hey, you know what? I'm connecting with you because I want to fill my network with like-minded individuals. I notice we do similar things. So if this sounds good to you, it'd be an honor to connect with you. That took like maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds. That's all. So that way they know why you're reaching out and what you intend. Again, it's all about that intention. And on the flip side, I would really honestly advise you to do the same thing when people connect with you. I've gotten into the habit of asking people, hey, thank you so much for your connection. May I ask what led you to connect? Is there something I could help you with? And that lets them know a couple different things, that you're not just on here for the sake of being on here. You're on here for a purpose and with a purpose. And if they don't respond, what I personally do is we no longer connect, because what are we doing? I'm in business. So be intentional when it comes to receiving and sending connection requests. Okay, as we both know, when you are networking with someone digitally, the main mode of communication is through text. You're either typing or sending a DM or typing in the connection little box, but you're typing. And so it's written communication. So be direct as possible. And when I say that, I don't mean being rude or terse. I mean get to the point directly using simplified language, because nothing is worse than something being lost in translation. If people have to reread your statement, what they mean here, I don't understand, they'll move on. So be clear. Now, mind you, the average American reads on a 5th grade level. That's what studies have shown. But year by year, it gets lower and lower. And that's no shade, that's just the reality of the situation. So you want to be clear. Thank you for connecting with me. I would like to XYZ. Very simple sentences, okay? You don't want anything to be lost in translation. Another thing when it comes to the digital communication aspect of this is if you receive a message, within 24 hours, you need to respond to it. Even if it's something that you don't find to be beneficial, respond to it. I get hit up all the time for people wanting me to employ them for SEO services, search engine optimization services. And I respectfully decline. And I know they get ignored all the time, but you could be that one person who, tells them, no, thank you, but I do wish you well. They'll remember you for that. And they may come back wanting something else in the future or wanting to, help you with something. You just never know. Keep the relationship open and clear. I do that all the time. And I've actually had further communication with people who have hit me up. It takes a second to be polite and acknowledge people. Last, but certainly not least, do not rush the pitch. And what I mean is, if you do get a response from somebody in the DMs and you're engaging in communication with them, do not pitch them so quickly. You know what? I write books. Can I write your book? No. No. Build the relationship, because people kind of let you know if they're interested and if they're not when it comes to what you do and what they do. So take the time to prime the relationship, but also be intentional to let them know, hey, if you have ever thought about whatever solution you provide, I'm available to help you with it. Woo, we got through that list kind of quick, but I always want to give you all information and get in and get out. But I want to leave you with something that's an honorable mention. When it comes to networking, there are 2 skills that are my greatest asset. Number 1, being listening, and number 2, paying attention. You may be thinking they're the same thing, but I'll break it down as to how they're similar, but they occur differently in different circumstances. So when you're in an in-person or at an in-person networking event, and you may hear someone make an off-the-cuff statement. They do this all the time. People like to talk about their kids, their pets, and also their businesses. For some people, their business is like their child. So if they mention loosely in conversation, I'll be celebrating 10 years of business next month on the 14th. You may just want to ping in your brain a mental note so you can bring that up. So whenever you reach out to them, just say, it was so nice meeting you, and I'm so excited. I want to congratulate you for celebrating 10 years of service. I know you mentioned it's going to be the 14th of next month, and I hope you treat yourself to something great because it's a good accomplishment. Something like that. They'll be impressed because they thought that they just said that off the cuff and you didn't really notice, but when you do, they're going to be happy with that. So it's just the small little things when you listen. And then the same thing occurs when it comes to digital networking and communication. Take note. People will even put in their message, my kid is turning, 5 next week. So it's a lot to juggle with my company, but I get it done. So if you take note of that, then you can contact that person maybe the day or so before their child's birthday and say, I know you mentioned that your little man will be 5. I hope you all have an amazing day and take off from work. He's always going to be the most important. They're going to be like, wow, they actually paid attention when I just happened to mention that in one of our communications. It's those little things that will always stick out when it comes to engaging with people. You'll stay top of mind because of those things. And if you may be wondering, how in the world will I keep up with that? Well, what I do is I use a CRM, customer relationship management software. And what I do is, it's totally free. I write notes for everyone that I engage with. So let's say I meet Marissa Smith I met her on, let's say January the 10th. Yeah, that was Friday. So January the 10th. And she and I discussed X, Y, and Z. I'm putting all of that in the notes. And also the CRM enables me to do a follow-up activity. So let's say I want to touch base on something that we talked about in our discussion, and I'll be following up with her on that day with either an email, and sometimes you can even automate the email, or I could send her a call, send a message, or I could simply call her. So a CRM is your best friend because you want to kind of have a running log of all the people that you engage with and you articulate with and talk to. But here's the thing, that's going to be difficult for you to remember off the top of your head. If you're anything like me, I have like 1,500 different things going on in my mind at any given time. So you want to make sure that you do go ahead and write all that stuff down so it stays with you and then you won't miss anything. All right, I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making this video. Again, my name is Lynette Renee Doby, and I'm an Amazon best-selling storytelling ghostwriter, and my aim is to help people get comfortable with words, and also I want to help my clients get into that 1% because 99% of people do not complete their book. If this seems of interest to you and you would like to communicate with me further, I'm putting a link down below to my website, and you can fill out an inquiry form, and then you and I can be in touch with each other. So again, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you are safe and warm and that the winter storm did not mess up things too much, and that if you are on the West Coast, many prayers to you and your family with regards to these fires, but take care of yourself and each other, and I will see you in the next upload. Thank you so much for spending your time with me.